Say yes every day to the world and to your heart. Open up your eyes and let your spirit start. Say yes to the dreams you hold inside. Let your soul be your guide.
In today's complex mortgage world, finding the right direction can be challenging. That's where Lighthouse Advisors comes in. With over 25 years of experience, we provide fractional leadership and executive oversight, guiding companies through transitions, growth, and innovation. From IMBs to brokers to credit unions to tech firms, our team of seasoned professionals is here to shine a light on solutions, ensuring your business thrives in every environment. At Lighthouse Advisors, we don't just guide, we empower. Together, let's create a ripple of success across the industry. Email us today at laura@lighthouseadvisors.com. Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. Today, we are joined by the incredible Theo Ellis. He is the CEO of Friday Harbor. Theo, thank you so much for joining us, and we cannot wait to learn all about your wisdom and insights that you're going to share.
Thanks, Laura. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump right in. Please share with us. Give us one of the best pieces of advice that you have received, and how has this piece of advice actually influenced your life?
Okay, so two things come to mind.
Okay.
I have the kind of soft advice I got and then the harsh advice I got, but both of them have been, I'd say, equally impactful in terms of how I've developed as a professional. So can I give?
Of course, go. I can't wait to hear.
Okay, so the soft, nice advice I got once, and this was given to a handful of people when I was a consultant. The head of the Mid-Atlantic office of McKinsey, Kevin Sneeder, who actually went on to become the head of the whole firm years later, he had this advice, like this was first few days as a consultant, like fresh out of college. He said the people who are best at this job, and I think this is true of any job, the people who are best at this job are the ones who make it look easy. And I think that's so true. If you look at the most successful leaders in any space, whether it's a client service business or an industrial firm or anywhere, they show up and they're happy doing what they do and they have incredible results and they just make it look easy. And you look at and it's like, how do you have the time? You always wonder that about the most successful people. And of course, there's a lot that goes into that, right? You're just seeing the output of years and years of hard work and sacrifice and diligence. But at the end of the day, they're making it look easy. So I just try to show up, never complaining, having a good time, enjoying what I'm doing, because I do enjoy what I'm doing. Or if I'm not, I try to restructure my life or what I'm working on so that it is enjoyable. Because I do think the people who are best at anything professionally, they make it look easy and that inspires other people. Of course, it's not easy under the hood, but they project that what they're doing is easy. It's fun.
I love that. And what's coming to my mind is years ago, someone said to me, Laura, you're very much like a duck. And you know what that means. It means that on the surface, you look like you're just calmly going along the water. But underneath, you're pedaling and pedaling, and you're like trying to stay above water, right? And I love that advice because it is true. You know, if you really look at, to your point, the most successful people, it looks like everything just simply comes to them and everything just lines up. But we all know the reason why it looks that way is all the hard work and all the failures and all the perseverance and all the resilience that was required in order to get to that point. So I love, all right, that's a soft one. Let's go with the one that's a little bit more direct, I guess.
Yeah, so I once got direct feedback I was working on a project with the CEO of a company years ago. And I won't get into too much of the specifics of it, but I thought I was doing great at something and he didn't, right? And he just said to me straight up, Theo, I'm the CEO. If I think you failed, you failed. Like, it doesn't matter what the truth is. He's like, same for me. He's speaking of himself. I'm the CEO. If my board of directors thinks I failed, I failed. Like it doesn't matter. Like the numbers could be good. I could have XYZ. At the end of the day, whoever you're accountable to, their perception of whether you're succeeding or failing is the truth. That there's
Yeah.
nothing else, right? So you just kind of need to deal with that. It's an unpleasant reality of the universe, of, society is like you can't point necessarily to some objective measure. I mean, you can try to, but at the end of the day, you need to work with the fact that everyone in every organizational, literally everyone, the CEO is accountable to the board, the board is accountable to the shareholders, everyone is accountable to someone, and the perception of whoever they're accountable to is the truth, whether you failed or succeeded. So deal with it. So that's the harsh reality of it. And I've definitely took that lesson to heart. And I think I've tried to apply that, and I try to impart that to other people. I try not. I'm not personally as um, you know necessarily direct or kind of as maybe that CEO was with me in giving that advice, but you kind of do want to impart that wisdom of, the perception of whoever you're accountable to is the reality. So help me get the perception right. Like maybe if you're working for me and I don't understand, how you see things, or how, whatever you're doing now is going to achieve results 3, 6, 12 months from now. Help me fix my perception, but ultimately the perception is what matters. Um,
That
so that
is
was,
so that is great advice, and it's actually making me think of two things.
yeah,
One, I had a woman at one point, she came on as a guest speaker at one of our
yeah,
women's events, and she did a whole seminar about when you go to work for a company, or if you get a new position where you've moved into a new role,
yeah,
it's important to actually meet very directly with the person that you are reporting to understand exactly what their expectations are and
yeah,
how they think and how they want to be communicated to and what the expectations are.
yep,
Because although you may have one concept in your mind and you may interpret something one way, to your point, if they don't see it that same way, you're wrong because their
yeah,
perception is different. So that is one thing that I'm telling you, I never even thought about doing something like that until this woman kind of opened my eyes. And that is great advice. The second thing, it's interesting. I'm working with a client right now, and he sent out a company wide communication about a week ago
yeah,
where a borrower gave them 4 out of 5 stars on a review. Now, to your point, their customer, right, or who they're accountable to was the borrower.
yeah,
And the borrower's perception was you did great here, but you missed the mark here.
yeah,
Now, regardless if everybody said, but we closed on
yeah.
time, we went above and beyond with our technology and we did all this great stuff, it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. It
It
doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. So I love that advice. That is so, so applicable to everyone.
And I think,
100%.
like you were saying with that speaker, the scoreboard can change as your role changes, and you might be looking at that scoreboard, and whoever your new customer or manager or board or whoever it is, they might be looking at that scoreboard, and it's like, wait a second, I'm now looking at the wrong scoreboard because everything could be a sports analogy, but as you move up, okay, you're thinking, am I throwing the ball fast enough? And then it's like, am I winning games? And then if
Right.
I'm running a team, it's like, am I winning seasons? And then it's like, is this team making money? Like you kind of move,
Yeah.
the scoreboard changes as you move up. And you need to be aware of that your old scoreboard could be irrelevant to your new audience.
Exactly. Great advice. And this kind of leads me into we're having a conversation a little bit about leadership, right? And we all know how valuable, and I don't care, this isn't a title, this isn't a role. Like every one of us is a leader, right? In our own realm of what we're doing. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what would you say to, in your own opinion, what is the most important trait of being a leader?
I would say it's okay. I'm going to give it a kind of quirky name. I'm going to call it being a quantum leader. So if
Okay.
quantum physics,
Yep.
not that I actually understand any of this, but like generally you're saying,
I actually love quantum physics. So
yeah,
you're
of
speaking
course.
my language.
Okay, well, just like you can just kind of hand wavy manner. It's like you can be two things at once. You can be on, you can be off. The cat can be alive and can be dead at the same time. So how can you do two things at once? So as a leader, you need to be both a beginner and an expert at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is you need to go into every day and every meeting thinking everything I learned and know could be wrong. I need to ask the right questions to understand my customer, to understand what's going on with my teams. If you're a leader of your family, to understand, why someone's upset. You always need to have that beginner mindset where you're discovering it for the first time and you're asking questions and you're not afraid to be wrong and to fail. So that's the beginner's mindset. But as a leader, you also need to be an expert at the same time because people are looking to you for vision and for confidence and for security, right? So you need to project that sense of it's going to be all right. We have this vision. This is where we're going. We're all going that way. And you need to, and people need to believe that you're credible, that this story you're telling about where your organization or your family or whatever it is, where you're headed, is a believable destination, that you're doing the right things to get there, and that their work matters for that. So to do those two things at once, to come out confident with a story about, yeah, that's where we're going. We're gonna, we're gonna sail west, and we're gonna hit, land. We're gonna hit, Asia, but at the same time to be like, wait a second, we just landed in America. But to have that beginner mindset, like, wait, maybe this isn't. Maybe I'm Christopher Columbus. Maybe I didn't land in America or in Asia. Maybe I landed in this new continent. You have to do those two things at once, and I think that's really hard. And I have no idea how to do that perfectly, but I try to bring both those things at the same time, to bring the confidence, to have vision for a team, but also to really try to be a good in journalist, almost like every day, show up, ask good questions, think everything I know could be wrong. Like, let me just, whoever I'm talking to, you may know something that I've never heard before, have that insight that's going to make all the difference for our strategy. So that's what my buzzy term for that is quantum leadership, being the beginner and the expert at the same time.
I think that's very, very unique perspective, right? I totally agree with you. And that's one of the things I love about the mortgage industry is that I believe that no matter how long you've done it, no matter what roles you've been in, every day you're kind of thrown into a new experience and something that you're like, well, never experienced that one before. Here's a new one. And that's the joy of our industry, is that you're not necessarily making a widget and, putting it on the assembly line to go out. Everything is unique. So there is an opportunity to look at things from that fresh perspective. But yet, you're right. As a leader, regardless if there's like flames coming up behind you that you are about to get burned, you have to remain calm. You have to make sure that everyone feels that there's a plan and there's a way the fire's going to be put out, and that they're like, no problem. We're not going in that direction anymore. We're going to take this avenue over here because this one's dangerous and we're going this way now. And the thing that I've learned, Theo, over time, and obviously when I was an earlier leader, I didn't know this, but of course now I do. For the most part, people will follow whatever you tell them, meaning people will say, okay, we have to pivot, we have to adapt, the market changed, this occurred, no problem. And as leaders, as long as we can paint that picture and explain the why and how those people tie into the picture, right? You have to tell them, regardless of what their role is, how they tie into that. For the most part, people will say, okay, instead of going right, we're going to go left. Instead of going to Asia, we're going this direction, whatever it is. So as a leader, I'm going to throw that back to you. What is the biggest piece? I mean, is it the communication? Is it constantly checking in with the, how do you make sure that, yes, you have that beginner and you have that expert, but then how do you tie it all together within the team?
I mean, I think you kind of alluded to it, that people don't like most people don't like ambiguity, and they don't like the absence of a story and to feel adrift. So like you said, I think you need to have, at any given time, if someone stops you, now a lot of us are working remotely, so there's no hallway you're walking in. But if you're bumping into a colleague or whatever it is, everyone needs to tell the same story about what the company or the team is doing.
So important. What you just said, the same story.
Yeah.
Like not different stories. Yes.
And I think what I've absorbed, and then you're kind of saying like, tactically, how do you do that? How do you make it happen? A lot of it's just repetition, right? Like being comfortable saying the same thing over and over again to your team and like repeating, and explaining, here's why this task that you're doing ties into this company objective, and this is why this company objective ties into our big picture strategy, and just doing that over and over again. And I'm not the best at that because I'm not like someone who's typically super repetitive, but I think it really helps to have that story. And to your point about like, people just want to know, they want to have a story. Some people can be more comfortable with ambiguity. And I really like working with those people. And I
Ah,
try to find out those people because that's actually how you keep that beginner mindset, right?
you're
Is
right.
working with people who we can agree this is our hypothesis, this is our story, but it's a hypothesis, right? And we
Yeah.
could be wrong. And what experiments can we do to ascertain whether we're really going the right direction? Are we really building the product that the customer wants? Are the motions we're going through actually going to improve it? Or are we just is this just motion for the sake of motion? So, you have to be repetitive. You have to kind of give people that story all the time. But on an individual level, I like to seek out people who can take a step back and embrace ambiguity, embrace a sense of I can always be wrong. And I don't know necessarily where if there's a common thread for how you like the background people have for who can actually
Maybe
embrace.
it's a balance. Maybe it's kind of a balance of both. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So maybe the conclusion is you almost are looking for a team that has both of those kind of people
yeah,
on it,
definitely,
you know,
definitely.
which is great. A great discussion. All right. So two final questions. So one, listen, we all know in the last couple of years, our industry has been all kinds of ups and downs and uncertainty, right? So
Yeah.
one thing I'd love to know is how do you keep yourself focused and inspired and motivated and moving forward in a time of uncertainty, whenever that is, right? Whether it was in the past, whether it's currently, or maybe it hasn't even happened. Maybe you're like, listen, I'm always certain and I'm good, right? But what would be your recommendation there? And then my wrap up question, and this is my fun question
Mhm.
that I'm a person that I believe that when you throw something out to the universe, you are bringing it to reality at some
Yes.
point.
Yes. Yeah.
So my final question that I want you to wrap up to is I want to know your moonshot. I want to know, and it doesn't even have to be about your business. It could be like, I want to, do this in my life at some point. It's so I want to know what that thing is. But first, how do you stay focused, inspired, and motivated?
Um, I'm not going to give the most original answer, but it really comes down to having routines in your life that give you perspective, right? And that give you
Yeah.
the ability to step back and see the big picture and be grateful for, the things that you have. And I'm pretty sure almost everyone, who's alive right now has something things they're grateful for. I mean, hope a lot of us have our health. That's an amazing thing to have. Not everyone has it, but to have the ability to take time to pull back. Now, as a company, we actually have built our values around this. So at Friday Harbor, we're a startup, right? We're a small company, but we started out very intentionally. We have certain values, and our number one value before any of the other ones is we're a wellness focused workplace. So
Oh,
as a team, we're never second guessing each other if someone needs time to go to the gym, to go to the doctor, to get extra sleep. Sleep is the best medicine there is, I think. And it's critical that people take care of their physical and mental health. However they do that, the people have different approaches to that.
yeah.
And I think that definitely benefits a company from a financial standpoint. It's also, I think, ethically the right thing to do to give people that space. But I know that I need that. Like if I'm a different person if I get 8 hours of sleep versus 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and
Sure.
I'm so much more creative and energetic. And the ROI on those 4 hours of sleep is gigantic. Those four additional hours. So, I try to stay healthy, through exercise and sleep and taking time to have fun, through hobbies and things like that. And I try to encourage everyone who I work with to do that as well. Like whenever someone on my team is, it seems tired or angry, or, they're not getting enough rest. It's like just take a day off, get the sleep. Like the day you take off, nothing's gonna fall apart, and you're gonna come back so much happier and so much more creative. So I just hope everyone in my organization does that, because it's how you win in the long run, right? It's just taking care of yourself physically, and that gives you the energy to succeed professionally, and it gives you the opportunity to have perspective, to be grateful for the things that I'm sure, most people here have some things that they're very grateful for.
Love that.
Um,
Give me the moonshot.
the moonshot. Well, there's always mountains beyond mountains, right? Like, and you don't always see the mountain beyond the mountain.
Yeah.
So, I'm very laser focused on Friday Harbor right now and what we're doing, which is an AI originator assistant. I think this industry, like you said, is so intellectually stimulating. It's such an interesting industry because there's so many moving parts, and it's at the intersection of finance and human psychology and all the government regulation and investor. There's just so many it's like this melting pot of so many interesting things. But it is an inefficient industry, and it's an industry that has kind of really deep furrows in its habits, and those habits aren't serving it. And I think there's some incredible technological capabilities out there, like just in the tech world, that if applied appropriately in this industry, could make this industry so much more efficient. And that could, obviously mean that we could deliver more of what we deliver to borrowers. We could deliver it in a way that's a better experience, and we could deliver it more affordably to borrowers and everyone in this industry. I've never met anyone in this industry who doesn't also think about, okay, the homeowner, the creating the American dream and what the mortgage industry does. But how do you do that economically, and how do you meet the borrowers where they are? I think that ultimately it's going to be a lot of technical innovation, and I hope Friday Harbor is a big part of that. So that's right now, that's my moonshot. But like,
I love it. I love it.
I really am becoming very passionate about the housing industry in general. And I think whatever it is, I would love for the rest of my career to be a part of, improving the housing industry in America. I think there is so much to be said for having home, and we have a shortage of it in the United States. And I don't think there's a good reason for that. I think we have plenty of land, plenty of productive people, plenty of resources. Like there's just so much to be done here in terms of making housing more accessible, more affordable for people and building. So what that is specifically, I don't know, but that's my like long-term moonshot is like, what can we do to improve the housing situation in this country?
It's interesting. When I started in this industry, I made a promise that I would leave our industry better than I found it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was part of my mission, right? And to your point that, it's part psychology, part technology, part, right? The biggest piece of it, it's extremely emotional.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
your house, you're getting the largest debt you'll ever get in your entire life. Like, all of it is extremely emotional.
Yeah,
And
the stress, the joy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's the stress and the joy all at the same time, all, and the unknown, right? The uncertainty of all of this, right? And so to your point, like I love what Friday Harbor's doing and what they're working on and all of the innovation that is coming to our industry and the opportunities, right? But we as mortgage leaders, right, in our industry, mortgage and real estate, we have to also be open to that adaptation. And we have to realize that because there is so much emotion tied into this, we have to be open, almost going back to what you just said. We have to have a little bit of that beginner mindset as we're looking at this, but yet have the long-term vision of, and it's interesting, at this very moment, my youngest son is purchasing a home.
Okay.
And watching that experience, once again, he's grown up with a family of mortgage experts his entire life, right? But yet, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference that he understands mortgages and understands the stress and the emotion of, writing checks from your savings account and getting inspections and finding out there's repairs that need to be done and closing dates and closing disclosures. It's scary
It
and
is.
it's overwhelming and there's so much emotion going on.
Yeah.
And I think to my, like, I'm actually happy I'm watching it because it reminds me again of we need to be in that perspective at all times in
Yeah.
our industry, right? And we can always do better. To your point, right? Like we all can do better. And I really, really focusing back of that one answer you gave. That's why we have to look at things from that beginner mindset, but yet be an expert
Yeah.
with confidence and knowledge and education of understanding what's going on in our industry and being part of the solution, being part of that solution. I'm very thankful and grateful that number one, that you and I met and that you and I have, I love it. And I love the work that Friday Harbor's doing. And I know that your moonshot will easily be attained because you guys are just going to keep lighting the way and showing the industry how important it is for us to continue to make this forward motion to help our loan officers, help our lenders, and ultimately the families that
Yeah.
we're all serving. So, all right, Theo, thank you for this. What
Thank you.
great conversation. And thank you for great insights and really thought-provoking discussion. So I appreciate you taking the time and sharing, and all the best to you and Friday Harbor.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Laura.